My uncle called me the family disappointment. Then I revealed who actually paid for dinner. My uncle Brent called me the family disappointment, loud enough that the table beside us went quiet, and I felt every single set of eyes swing in my direction, like I dropped a glass. We were mid-dinner, mid-clatter of plates and low jazz from a speaker somewhere behind the bar, and his voice sliced right through it. He had a steak knife in his hand like a prop, pointing it at me while he smiled that tight, satisfied smile people get when they think they're winning. "I mean it," he said, leaning back in his chair like he was settling into a story he'd rehearsed. "Some of us actually built something. And some of us—" His gaze traveled over my blazer, my plain black top, my hair pulled up because I'd come straight from work. "Some of us are still playing pretend. Still floating. Still needing help." My mom's fork paused halfway to her mouth. My cousin Kara stared at her drink. My grandma blinked slowly, confused in that tired way she gets when conversations get sharp. I felt heat climb up my neck and into my cheeks, and my hands tightened around my water glass so hard the condensation slicked my fingers. I didn't answer right away because my body did that thing where it tries to keep you safe by freezing you in place. The restaurant smelled like butter and garlic and something sweet, maybe wine sauce, and suddenly my stomach turned as if the smells were too much. I could hear Brent's wife, Janice, do a tiny laugh that sounded like approval. "Brent," my mom said, but it came out weak like she didn't want to make him mad. Brent shrugged and kept going. "It's not mean, it's honest," he said. "This family has standards. We don't just drift." He glanced at the waiter and snapped his fingers once, like he owned the air. "Hey, when you bring the check, make sure it's all on one," he said, and then he looked back at me. "I've got it. Like always. Somebody has to be the adult." My throat tightened so hard it felt like I'd swallowed a stone. I set my glass down carefully because if I didn't, I was going to shake it and spill water all over the tablecloth, and then he'd use that too. I took a breath and said quietly, "Brent, you're not paying tonight." He laughed, loud, amused, confident. "Oh," he said. "And who is?" It was a Saturday night in early spring, and this dinner had been pitched as a family reset. That's what my mom called it on the phone, like we were a group chat that needed clearing. Grandma had been out of the hospital for 2 weeks after fall, and everyone was doing that thing families do where they pretend showing up once means they're deeply involved. Brent had offered to take everyone somewhere nice, which in our family means somewhere with cloth napkins and menu items you can brag about. He picked the restaurant. He picked the time. He even picked the seating arrangement so he could sit at the head of the table like a CEO of being related to us. The reason he felt so comfortable calling me a disappointment is because that's been my assigned role since I was about 16. Brent is my mom's older brother. Successful on paper, always ready with advice he didn't earn the right to give. He owns a small contracting business, drives a truck he keeps spotless, and speaks in this firm, booming way that makes people assume he's right even when he's not. When I was younger, he'd mess up my name on purpose at holidays, Sammy, Sandy, Steph, then act like I was too sensitive if I corrected him. When I didn't go into nursing like my aunt wanted, he said, "Must be nice doing whatever you feel like." When I went to college anyway and worked nights to pay for it, he told everyone I was lost. When I landed a decent job in operations at a mid-sized company, he said, so like admin, like the only jobs that count are the ones that look like his. And the worst part is how easy it is for everyone else to let him talk. He fills the space so thoroughly that disagreeing feels like starting a fire. My mom hates confrontation. My grandma has always been the keep the peace type. My cousin Kara learned early that laughing along got her invited places. I learned early that defending myself made me difficult. So I stopped. I kept my life quiet. I showed up, smiled, ate the dry turkey, listened to Brent's stories about how nobody wants to work anymore, and went home feeling scraped out. But in the last year, things shifted in a way nobody really acknowledged out loud. Grandma's health started declining, and I became the person actually handling it. Not because I'm a saint, but because I live 15 minutes away, and I can't sleep when I know she's alone and scared. I took her to appointments. I figured out her insurance paperwork. I installed grab bars in her bathroom. I set up her medications in one of those weekly organizers with the tiny lids that make your fingers hurt. I also started covering small bills when her fixed income didn't stretch. Groceries, prescriptions, the ramp we needed after her fall, even part of the home health 8 hours when Medicaid took its sweet time. Brent knew none of that. Or maybe he suspected and didn't care, because caring would mean admitting I'm not a drifter. It would mean admitting his loud contributions, the occasional bouquet of flowers and a Facebook post about family first, weren't the same as actual support. So when he insisted on this dinner, I agreed, mostly for Grandma. She wanted to go somewhere that wasn't her living room. She wanted lipstick and a reason to wear her little pearl earrings. I told myself I could handle one night of Brent being Brent. What I didn't expect was the check. About an hour before dinner, while I was helping Grandma into the car, my phone buzzed with a reminder. The home aid payment was due Monday, and I was short because my work bonus hadn't hit yet. The number sat in my mind like a blinking light. At the restaurant, when Brent started ordering appetizers for the table, with the casual generosity of someone spending other people's comfort, I did a quick mental math and felt that familiar mix of irritation and anxiety. He was going to make a show of paying, then spend the next 6 months talking about how he treats the family, while I quietly Venmo'd Grandma's pharmacy. So when Brent went to the bathroom halfway through the meal, I slid my card out of my wallet and stood up. My legs felt steady in a way my voice didn't. I walked to the host stand, asked for the manager, and said, "Hi, I'm at the Pierce party table. I'd like to pay the full bill now. Please don't bring the check to the table." The manager looked surprised. I kept my face neutral. "It's a family thing," I said. He nodded like he understood those words could mean 100 different problems. Walking back to the table, my heart was thumping in my ribs. My hands felt cold. I didn't tell anyone what I'd done, because I knew if I announced it, Brent would find a way to twist it. I just sat down, picked up my fork, and tried to enjoy Grandma's smile when she tasted her dessert. Then Brent delivered his little speech, right on schedule, and declared he'd be the adult and pay. So when he asked smugly, "And who is?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't do a big mic drop moment. I just met his eyes and said, "Me. I paid when you went to the bathroom." For a second, the table went so quiet I could hear the ice settle in someone's glass. Brent's expression didn't change immediately, which was almost worse, because you could see his brain trying to reject the reality. "No, you didn't," he said, laughing again, but this time the laugh came out too sharp. Janice's smile froze. Kara's eyes flicked toward me like she was watching a car accident. My mom stared at me, shocked, like she hadn't realized I was capable of stepping out of the script. Brent leaned forward, lowering his voice as if he could intimidate the truth back into my mouth. "Samantha," he said, using my full name like it was a warning, "don't start games." "I'm not," I said. My voice was steady, but my hands were sweating under the table. I asked them not to bring the check. "It's already handled." Right then, like some cruelly perfect timing, the waiter approached, not with a check, but with a small receipt folder and a polite smile. "Just confirming," he said, looking at me, not Brent. "You took care of everything." "Thank you." He nodded and walked away before Brent could grab him and rewrite the story. Brent stared after him, like the air had been stolen. His face flushed, then paled. "Why would you do that?" he demanded. I felt the words press against my teeth, hot and impatient. I could have said, "Because you don't get to buy a crown with a credit card and wear it over everyone." I could have said, "Because you don't get to call me a disappointment and then play provider for applause." But I knew if I made it emotional, he'd dismiss me as dramatic. So I said the simplest truth. "Because you are going to hold it over us," I replied. "And I'm tired." My mom finally found her voice. "Hannah," she started, then corrected herself, because she always mixes my name with my friend's name when she's stressed. She swallowed. "Samantha," she said softly, "you didn't have to do that." Grandma reached across the table and put her hand on my wrist. Her skin felt papery and warm. "Thank you, sweetheart," she whispered. Her eyes were shiny, and she looked embarrassed on my behalf, Like she'd watched this dynamic for years and hated it, but didn't know how to stop it. That small touch grounded me more than anything. Brent pushed his chair back. "So this is what we're doing now," he snapped. "Humiliating me in public?" I looked at him, really looked. The man who had made a hobby out of humiliating me in private and in front of family, now acting wounded because the spotlight wasn't his. "You called me the family disappointment," I said evenly. "At your retirement party volume. If anyone should feel embarrassed, it's not you, because you didn't get to pay." Janice leaned in and hissed. Brent was joking. "He wasn't," I said, and I didn't even glance at her. "And even if he was, the joke only works if everyone agrees I'm less than." Brent's mouth opened, then closed. He looked around the table, searching for backup. Kara stared at her napkin. My mom looked torn between relief and fear. Grandma kept her hand on my wrist, like she was anchoring me. Brent finally exhaled hard. "Whatever," he muttered. "If you want to throw money around, go ahead. Must be nice." That old phrase. That old dismissal. I nodded once. "It is nice," I said quietly. "It's nice to be able to take Grandma out and not have to calculate whether someone will use it to shame us later." Brent's eyes narrowed. "So you think you're better than me now?" I felt something settle in my chest, less anger, more clarity. "No," I said. "I think I'm done letting you define me." Dinner ended awkwardly after that. We boxed leftovers. Grandma hugged me extra long in the parking lot and whispered, "I'm proud of you." My mom asked me, in a trembling voice, if I could maybe not poke Brent again because he's sensitive. I didn't argue. I just told her, I didn't poke him. I stopped shrinking. Brent didn't text me afterward. That silence felt like a strange gift. I know he's telling his version of the story somewhere, how I showed off, how I made it weird, how I'm always trying to prove something. Let him. I'm not living under his narration anymore. And the truth is, I didn't pay for dinner because I wanted revenge. I paid because I wanted one normal evening where generosity wasn't a weapon. I wanted Grandma to eat her dessert without hearing her grandson brag about being the adult. I wanted to sit at that table and feel like my presence didn't require permission. I'm sure some people will say I should have handled it privately. But privately is where I've been swallowing this for years. Publicly is where he felt safe enough to call me a disappointment. Publicly is where I finally got to exist without being edited. Thanks for watching. If you've ever been the family scapegoat until the bill came and the truth slipped out, share your story in the comments. I'd really like to hear it.